What's up, everyone, and welcome into another episode of Wizards Latest. I'm your host and DC sports fan, Ben Robertson, and on this page, we break down all the biggest headlines surrounding the Washington Wizards. So make sure you hit those like and subscribe buttons down below. Drop your comments with any thoughts you have for me on this video or anything you want to hear me talk about in the future. Appreciate all the support here on the page. Keep tuning in every single weekday. Today, I want to talk about the team catching a stray from Jordan Poole in his recent press conference with the Pelicans. Then we'll chat about the one word Bleacher Report has used to describe the Washington offseason. We'll move on to the team starting something called the Coaching Apprentice Program. Really interested to dive into that. And lastly, a former Wizard has reached a deal with another NBA team to keep him in the league. Again, guys, appreciate all the support here on the page. As you can see on the go here this week. Also, Will Dawkins presser coming out today. Stay tuned tomorrow. Of course, again, make sure to hit those like and subscribe buttons to turn on post notifications as well to see tomorrow's episode, because we're going to chat about that Will Dawkins press conference and what he has to say. But again, want to dive into those Jordan Poole comments. Jordan Poole obviously getting introduced in New Orleans, and it took a little bit of a shot here, maybe indirectly, but definitely a shot at the Wizards. And he said, "I'm super excited, man. I haven't had a good screen set for me in about 2 years, so it'll be dope." And he says was specifically when asked in reference to reuniting with Kevon Looney, his former Golden State teammate. Even if true here, I'm a little bit surprised by these comments from Jordan Poole. I feel like him and the team kind of parted ways on decent terms. Obviously, sort of rebuilt his reputation around the league with the Wizards over the last couple of years. Even some of the young players on the roster have posted when he left, talked about his leadership and what he's meant to them. So I do still wish Jordan Poole well here now that he's moved on. Obviously endured some tough times in the last couple seasons, gave us some of the more exciting moments of these last 2 years, but still a bit of a stray, being taken by the Wizards, thrown by Jordan Poole, that I wasn't quite expecting when I saw that comment get released. Again, seemed like he had pretty good relations with his other teammates. So even if that is something that he did feel, was true, kind of surprised he came out and said it. But do also wonder if maybe it speaks. I really do. I think it was less Poole trying to take a shot at the Wizards and really just trying to hype up Looney and kind of express how excited he is to be back with him. But want to move on to the Bleacher Report article that gave a grade, or not a grade, one word to describe every single team's offseason in the NBA. Obviously, you see the question there, kind of piggybacking off that. Would love to know your grade for this Wizards offseason down below in that comment section. But the word that Bleacher Report used was optimized, and I loved that. Obviously, a big part of that is getting off of the Jordan Poole contract. Of course, sending him to New Orleans, essentially exchanging his contract for CJ McCollum's, gets the Wizards off that massive deal about a season earlier. Of course, McCollum's contract expiring this year. Of course, you got Kelly Olynyk back in that deal as well. He was flipped pretty much immediately, and it just shows throughout. Of course, another part of this offseason we've talked about a whole bunch, adding Cam Whitmore to the young core. And again, this article discusses what we've been saying here on the page, what the Wizards fan base has kind of understood. Will Dawkins walked into what was not a good situation in terms of roster construction and in terms of future draft capital and assets. And he's given the team just a fighting chance moving forward to actually come out of this rebuild and, legitimately get maybe back into contention in the NBA. I agree, and I know still at this point a lot of things are gonna have to go right. I mean, landing the blue chip prospect in next year's draft class, part of that. Still hoping, still these young core players can make leaps forward this year. And really, again, I mentioned yesterday, I really think there's at least one, maybe two all-star caliber players that are here already. So again, Will Dawkins is just given the squad out of what was really not a whole bunch to work with and not a whole bunch of great to work with. And he's given this organization just a chance moving forward to get back into contention in the NBA. And again, that word optimized from this Bleacher Report article, I think is the perfect descriptor for this offseason. But want to move on to the team launching something called the Coaching Apprentice Program, which aims to mentor former players who want to become coaches. 5 people are going to be part of the inaugural class, including Shabazz Napier, the former UConn star. Brian Keefe leading this effort, really, the Wizards head coach. And apparently, these 5 former players who want to get into coaching are going to work directly with the Wizards players and staff throughout this season. And this is just, again, maybe a small thing, but something I just think, again, is just a sign of the times here in DC, a sign of the change in culture with this Washington Wizards franchise and organization. There's a funny thing. Years ago, Bruce Allen of the Commanders made kind of a comical quote where he said, we're winning off the field, and now we got to start winning on the field. If you ever watch the Grant and Danny show on the 1067, they reference this all the time. I think they have a segment based around it. But my point of that in this moment is it's kind of a winning off the court moment, to be quite honest, while we're still not winning on the court yet. Regardless, I love this. I still do. I would rather be the team that's at the forefront of being innovative and instead of being a reactive team that's trying to catch up and trying to follow the league. I would rather be the ones trying new things and maybe setting the tone and the standard for development around the NBA. And remember, Brian Keefe, who his job has maybe been discussed a little bit here this offseason, he cut his teeth in the NBA as a developmental coach and as teaching players really how to build their skill sets. So again, just a really cool thing I think the Wizards are doing. Excited to maybe hear a little bit more about that, see how that plays out over the course of the year. Excited to maybe hear some of the players' thoughts and, of course, the members of this apprentice program, how things are going for them in that regard. Last thing I want to talk about, Thomas Bryant being picked up by the Cavs. Of course, former 4-year member of the Wizards, really his first year with the team, probably maybe his best complete season in the entire NBA or in his entire NBA career. Of course, a member of that Pacers finals run this past season, lost minutes in the playoff, but was still able to contribute a little bit. Glad he can, stick around the NBA. I talked about here on the page, it looked like he was headed over to Europe at one point here previously over the summer. I feel like if he entered the league, one of those guys that if he entered the league 10, 15 years ago, his role or his game might have suited the NBA a little bit better. But again, always rooting for a guy like him to kind of hang around the league and continue getting opportunities. But I'll keep you posted on everything Wizards related right here on the page. So make sure you've hit those like and subscribe buttons. Again, turn on post notifications. Keep tuning in every single weekday. Remember, tomorrow we're going to talk about that Will Dawkins presser. So make sure you're tuned in. And thank you guys for watching another episode of Wizards Latest.